Welcome to the Quick Collecting Guide for Marvel's Excalibur, presented by Crushing Comics. I'm your host, Crisis with a K, and I'm here with a video summary of my definitive Excalibur collecting guide and reading order from my website, crushingcrisis.com, linked in the description below. I'm going to explain every Excalibur series and how they have been collected in physical collected edition volumes, as of volumes solicited by the 2nd of April 2021. This guide comes in 5 segments. First, what is Excalibur? Second, what is Excalibur's publishing history? Third, can you collect Excalibur in omnibus and oversized editions? Fourth, what is a complete collecting map to Excalibur? And finally, what are the best points to start reading Excalibur? Ready? Let's go. Excalibur was created by Chris Claremont and Alan Davis in 1987. It was an offshoot of Claremont's historic run on Uncanny X-Men, containing both plot threads and characters from around the time of Mutant Massacre, although Excalibur would not launch until after Fall of the Mutants. It was also the first chance for American audiences to be exposed to Captain Britain and his British mythology in an ongoing series, although he had made a few American appearances before that, including in annuals from both New Mutants and Uncanny X-Men. That set the tone for all future Excalibur series. Excalibur is usually about 2 or all 3 of these elements. 1, some member of the Braddock family, sometimes Brian Braddock, sometimes Betsy Braddock. 2, the Captain Britain mantle and mythology. And 3, mutants. Now, Chris Claremont did once break those rules for an Excalibur series, but we will get into that in just a moment. Excalibur debuted in 1987 in a special edition one-shot. That issue is sometimes called Excalibur the Sword is Drawn. When Excalibur's ongoing series debuted in 1988, that one-shot was reissued as part of the 1988 volume, so you will sometimes see it listed as 1987, sometimes as 1988. Either way, it's the same sort of pilot episode for the Excalibur team. Excalibur 1988 ran for 125 issues, as well as a -1 issue and 2 annuals. Excalibur also was unusual in that for its first few years of life, Marvel issued individual one-shot specials rather than annuals that were part of the Excalibur volume. They did a similar thing for both Wolverine and for Punisher. That means there's a string of Excalibur specials which are also collected alongside Excalibur. They are Excalibur Mojo Mayhem in 1989, Excalibur Weird War 3 in 1990, Excalibur The Possession in 1991, and Excalibur Heir Apparent in 1991, and finally Excalibur XX Crossing in 1992. Some sources will list these issues as if they're part of the 1988 Excalibur volume, but if you were to check their indicia, you will find they are all their own distinct volume. Later on in the run of Excalibur 1988, there were 3 miniseries and 1 one-shot which are closely associated with the series and sometimes collected alongside of it. They are Starjammers 1995, 1-4, Pride and Wisdom 1996, 1-3, Kitty Pryde, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. 1997, 1-3, and a Colossus one-shot from 1997. I'll get into the reading order placement of all of these specials, annuals, miniseries, and one-shots as we get into the full collecting map in just a moment. Excalibur's 2001 series, sometimes known as Excalibur Sword of Power, is a 4-issue limited series written by Ben Robb. Excalibur 2004 is a 14-issue ongoing series written by Chris Claremont. This is the Excalibur series that breaks the Excalibur rules. It doesn't have any Braddocks, and it is not about Captain Britain. It starred Charles Xavier and Magneto, as well as a motley crew of mutants, on the Isle of Genosha in the aftermath of Grant Morrison's new X-Men run. It also featured some appearances by the Scarlet Witch, which led it to be branded as a prelude to House of M. New Excalibur in 2006 was a 24-issue series launched by Chris Claremont and featuring characters like Dazzler, Juggernaut, Nocturne, Sage, and Pete Wisdom. That series concluded with its cast participating in a 5-issue 2008 miniseries called X-Men Die by the Sword, which also concluded the concurrent run of Exiles. Please note, Captain Britain and MI-13 in 2008 does follow many of the Excalibur rules, but since it does not have an Excalibur title, I do not include it in this guide. That brings us to Excalibur's 2019 series. That was launched as part of the Age of Krakoa era of X-Men by Jonathan Hickman in the wake of House of X and Powers of X. It was launched by Tini Howard and Marcus To, and it is still ongoing as of the time of this recording. If you want to collect and read Excalibur in an oversized hardcover format, here's what you should look out for. For 1988, there's an Excalibur Volume 1 Omnibus. This collects from the Excalibur Special all the way through issue 34, which is the end of Chris Claremont's run on the title. It also includes all of the specials and guest appearances that fit with this period. It's very comprehensively mapped. Then there's an Excalibur Omnibus Volume 2. This collects from issue 35 through issue 67, which encompasses all of Alan Davis's return to the title. It also includes all of the specials and guest appearances that you would expect to run alongside the title in that period, again, very comprehensively mapped. That second volume means that a previous X-Men hardcover, X-Men Days of Future Past, is now obsolete in your Excalibur shelf. It collected a few of the Alan Davis issues, but now they have been duplicated by that Volume 2 omnibus. That's it for exclusive collections of 1988 Excalibur, but it does feature in some X-Men event collections, including Excalibur 71, which was part of Fatal Attractions and in the X-Men Fatal Attractions hardcover. Also, Excalibur 78 through 81 had subplots that were part of the launch of the Phalanx Covenant crossover. So if you have the Phalanx Covenant crossover hardcover, that includes Excalibur 78 through 81, plus the actual crossover issue in Excalibur 82. There are some other Excalibur issues that are excerpted in other hardcovers, but none that should significantly collect enough of Excalibur that they need a spot on your Excalibur shelf. That includes the Inferno Omnibus and portions of issue 100 in the Onslaught Omnibus. There are no oversized hardcovers at this time of the Excalibur series from 2001 or 2004 or New Excalibur from 2006. For Excalibur 2019, there is an Excalibur by Teenie Howard oversized hardcover that collects the first 12 issues of the series. Then issues 13, 14, and 15 were part of the huge X of Swords crossover in the entire X-Men line. So if you get the X of Swords oversized hardcover, you will have issues 1 through 15 of Excalibur. Plus, X of Swords is very much an Excalibur event, the first ever, really, so X of Swords is critical to your ongoing reading of this 2019 Excalibur series. Excalibur is currently being collected as part of Marvel's Epic Collections. Epic Collections collect an entire character or series in reading order with annuals, specials, and even some key guest appearances threaded in the proper placement. Now, Epic Collections don't always release in chronological order. Sometimes they release Epic Collection 1, Epic Collection 16, Epic Collection 2, Epic Collection 7. But Excalibur Epic Collections have been releasing in sequential order so far. So we have volumes 1 through 4, and they collect Excalibur 1 through 58, as well as all of the specials that fit in with that, and some key guest appearances. If you want a comprehensive Excalibur shelf in paperback format, this is right now the most comprehensive and the simplest way to get that started. To explain other collections of Excalibur 1988, I need to break it into 6 segments for you. For each segment, I'll say the issue ranges and explain how it has been collected. First, we have issues 1 through 34. This is the classic Chris Claremont run on Excalibur with Alan Davis on art for issues 1 through 17. This was previously collected as Excalibur Classic trade paperbacks in 5 volumes. Those trade paperbacks also included the Sword is Drawn special, the Mojo Mayhem special, which occurs during issue number 11, and the Weird War 3 special, which fits after issue 34. Then we have issues 35 through 41. This is sort of a transition period for Excalibur, and it has never been collected before the Epic Collections and the Omnibus. Into this period, we can also fit 2 more of the specials, Excalibur The Possession 1991 and Heir Apparent also from 1991. Both of those can be read between issues 41 and 42. Next, we have issues 42 through 67. This was Alan Davis's return to the title of Excalibur. These were previously collected as Excalibur Alan Davis Visionaries volumes. There were 3 of those. They also included Excalibur XX Crossing, a 1992 special, which fits after issue 54. Next, we have another transition period. It's issues 68 through 82 and annuals 1 and 2. This is where Excalibur started to be gathered more into the fold with the rest of the X-Men series. Annual 1 actually occurs during issue 66, which is part of Davis's run, but Annual 1 is not by Davis, so it is not included with those collections. Annual 2 falls at the end of this run after issue 82. Now, from this run, issue number 71 is always collected with Fatal Attractions collections. It was one of those issues that had a hologram cover as part of the Fatal Attractions event. Also, issue 82 is part of the direct crossover of the Phalanx Covenant, so it is always collected alongside the Phalanx Covenant issues that it directly crosses over with. However, sometimes Phalanx Covenant material will also collect issues 78, 79, and 80, although not always issue 81, as was the case in the recent Phalanx Covenant Milestones collection. Next, we come to issues 83 through 103, which were written by Warren Ellis. They were collected in a series of 3 Warren Ellis Visionaries trade paperbacks. Those trade paperbacks also included Pride and Wisdom 1 through 3, which was a 1996 series, which kind of continues from issue 103, as well as a related Starjammers miniseries from 1995. Also in this period, consider that issue 95 was a direct crossover with the X-Man series, so X-Man will tend to collect issue number 95, and also portions of issue 100 are collected alongside Marvel's Onslaught collections. Finally, we come to Excalibur 104 through 125 and -1. Starting from 106, this was written by Ben Robb, and this has never been collected comprehensively. As a part of this run, there's issue -1, which occurs, or at least was released, not occurs because of the flashback, released after issue 110. Then we have Colossus, the 1997 one-shot, that fits between 113 and 114. And finally, we have Kitty Pryde, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. by Larry Hama, a miniseries that runs concurrent with issues 115 and 117. Excalibur 2001 issues 1 through 4 have never been collected. Excalibur 2004 issues 1 through 14 were originally collected in a series of 3 trade paperbacks. The third of those trade paperbacks was marketed as Prelude to House of M and carries the House of M trade dress on the spine. As you can imagine, that can sometimes be the hardest one of the 3 to track down. Otherwise, the series has not been comprehensively recollected. New Excalibur 2006 issues 1 through 24 were originally collected in a series of 3 trade paperbacks. Also, this team wound up concluding the stories in a 2008 miniseries called X-Men Die by the Sword issues 1 through 5, which were collected in a trade paperback of the same name. While New Excalibur has not been comprehensively recollected, that Die by the Sword miniseries was collected in Exile's Ultimate Collection, Book 6. Excalibur 2019 is collected both in an ongoing series of trade paperbacks, as well as in the anthology collections Dawn of X and Reign of X. These trade paperbacks collect all of the Age of Krakoa roughly in the order that the issues were released. Also, keep in mind that issues 13, 14, and 15 were part of the X of Swords crossover. That means they're not going to be collected independently with Excalibur, but you can get them in an X of Swords collection. And finally, as a reminder, there is an Excalibur oversized hardcover collecting issues 1 through 12. Finally, we come to where to start reading Excalibur. Now, for some of you who are completionists like me, I know you're probably going to want to start with the introduction of Captain Britain and read all of his material, which is going to be collected comprehensively in an omnibus at the end of 2021. If so, great, you're going to have a fun time. Talking about just reading the Excalibur content that we covered in this guide, of course, the best place to start is Excalibur Sword of Power from 1987. It's a great pilot story. It tells you everything you need to know where these characters have been, where they're coming from, and it's really just a fun read. Plus, it will carry you right into the classic Claremont run of the title. If you want to start a little bit farther in, which is where I originally began way back in the 90s, you can start with issue 42, which is Alan Davis's return to the title. Davis has a great handle on the characters, the relationships are a little bit more developed, and the plot feels a little bit bigger and more cohesive than the plot in the original issues. I don't know that I would recommend starting anywhere later in Excalibur from there, but if you're in more of an integrated X-Men read and you want to read Excalibur as it relates more to the core of the X-Men titles, you could just start from that Fatal Attractions issue in issue number 71, as that's really the beginning of Excalibur being treated more like an X-Men title. After that, the next place you could start Excalibur would be with New Excalibur in 2006. Now, New Excalibur is not a super well-referenced series as of today. There are some plot elements that come back, but not a lot. But it's still a fun series with an engaging cast written by Chris Claremont and with Captain Britain, as well as some other favorites. And finally, you can just jump in to Excalibur 2019. Excalibur 2019, part of the Age of Krakoa, is very much a Betsy Braddock title and a Captain Britain core title, as well as some of the mythology around the Captain Britain core, like the mythology of Otherworld. I think it does a pretty good job of catching you up as a new reader, so you can start right from there. And hey, if you get interested, there's plenty of Excalibur and Captain Britain to dig into in the past. That concludes my quick collecting guide for Marvel's Excalibur, current as of the 2nd of April 2021. Again, if you're looking for a totally comprehensive guide with every issue that's ever been collected, you need to go to crushingcrisis.com to my full Excalibur collecting guide and reading order. Now, before I see you again, I have some questions for you. First of all, has this helped you in your collecting or reading of Excalibur? I would love to know. Second, how did you like the organization of this collecting guide? Because this is my pilot episode. Do you think that the sections were the right ones to help you out, or do you have some suggestions for other ones? I'd really like to know your opinion. And finally, what other collecting guides would you love to see in video? Of course, there's over 100 on my website, crushingcrisis.com, but what guides merit a video, and could video be a clearer explanation? I'd love to know your opinions on any or all of those questions. Until I see you again, I've been Crisis with a K, and this is my first ever quick collecting guide presented by Crushing Comics.